Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. I hope you're doing all okay. I am joined once again by my co-hosts, Andrew and Adam. They are back again. We are back live for our awesome chat. After our awesome chat with Fernando from Sports Illustrated, who reports on the Chargers. We talked all about Rashawn Slater, the LA Chargers. Fernando was a great laugh to have on, really good fun. But today we're going to now talk about one of the most interesting picks, probably of the 2021 NFL draft, and that was the New England Patriots pick at 15, the quarterback from Alabama, Mac Jones, meant to go number one, apparently, but then getting tumbling down to number 15, where the New England Patriots got him. And we are joined today by Cole Topham from Utah, all the way over in Utah, reporter for the House of Sparky, which reports on Arizona State University. It's a sports member of the SB Nation. He's also a fantasy football reporter for Ball Blast Football and also has a YouTube channel as well, Ham Analysis. Cole, thank you for joining us, my friend. I know it's the afternoon over there in Utah, and thank you for taking your time out of your day to come chat with us all about the NFL.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for the grand introduction. And I also want to note that you actually said my name correct. A lot of people mispronounce it. And I guess my YouTube channel, Ham Analysis, sort of, puts it into mind that my last name is pronounced Topham, but you said it 100% correctly. So major kudos to you.
At least I didn't turn the PH into a first, like a Topham, a Cole Topham could have been one, maybe. But yeah.
But like the HAM is pronounced and you hit that perfectly. So yeah.
Well, we've invented a language. We speak the Queen's English over here. Only no slang over here on the Franchise Tag Podcast. But yeah, thank you for joining us, Cole. We're going to be talking about Mac Jones today, going to the New England Patriots, a pick that. Well, we didn't. Maybe some will come in. I don't know. I think that Mac Jones was getting a lot of hype before the draft started. But he could even go at number 3 spot with the San Francisco 49ers. But no, they went for Trey Lance. Then the Bears move up and go and get Justin Fields. And then lowly Mac Jones, he falls, but gets that 15 spot and was picked by the New England Patriots. He did that legendary walk to the stage where he got his jersey with Jones on the back. What was your reaction to Mac Jones being announced as a new quarterback for the New England Patriots?
Well, you mentioned it as a walk. I wouldn't say it was necessarily a walk. It sort of seemed like he waddled over there. There's like this little pompous waddle that he did. But I mean, number 15 overall, I think is the right spot. Not too high. The Patriots didn't need to like leapfrog anybody to snag him, which I never really saw them trading up in the first place. Belichick, he trades down more than he trades up. So, and also, just being in the top 15 is sort of uncharted territory for New England. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was the right spot for him. I didn't think the 49ers were necessarily leaning in that direction. I thought they were more in the Fields Lance camp more than the Mac Jones Lance camp. So I think, I mean, Mac Jones, he doesn't give me those like killer mentality vibes like someone like Baker Mayfield, does. He doesn't have that chip on his shoulder. But he seems like a guy that hits the books. He's never short on his readiness or his preparedness. Overall, he just seems like a player with a strong work ethic, and he follows directions. He doesn't try and do it all in one play. And I think that meshes great with Belichick's mentality to winning football games.
Yeah, through the college season, it was hard not to hear everyone talk about him. It was hard not to see highlights of him. After the season finished, there's a massive loads of tape on him for the season. But what impressed you the most about his time at Alabama?
I think probably the obvious is cerebral qualities, just identifying coverages at the line, not always trying to make the right throw, but always making the smart one, right? So Sean Wade, the Ohio State cornerback, he went in the 5th round to the Ravens in this year's draft, but he said that Mac Jones was the hardest quarterback he ever faced because he felt Jones like knew too much about how the Buckeyes defense played in past situations. And he was always exposing areas of the field that they weren't in. So just that ability, that next level intelligence to just, sit under the center and diagnose defenses before the play even develops is a strong quality of Mac Jones. I would say his arm is decent. He doesn't have a gun, but his play style is mostly in the pocket, and he's never really needed that next level arm talent to shine. So he's a solid passer because of his anticipation, right? And I tweeted this right before I joined you guys, but it's those short throws, over the middle, just at the sidelines. He leads his receivers, and he shows the qualities of a quarterback who slings the rock where his receivers are going to be and not necessarily where they currently are. And so I could go on and on if you guys want me to, but His deep ball, it definitely leaves a little bit to desire, but is enough to get the job done. He doesn't need to have this cannon that Mahomes and Allen, of today are revered for, even Lance and Fields in this year's draft. But I would say most of his throws were on target. He had plenty of air, when he needed the long distance, long throws where his receivers weren't hindered and had to slow up as they ran their routes. So I'd probably say those are the most impressive qualities about Mac Jones at Alabama.
Yeah, he definitely had like a proper quality season in that last season he had with Alabama. And I think when we previously talked about all the other quarterbacks that we spoke about already on this show, we've talked about arm talent, we've talked about speed, we've talked about like how impressive they are with throwing the ball on the move and things like that. But when you really look at the qualities of Mac Jones, and my list that I made was he's a real good captain, he's a great leader, his teammates absolutely loved him. He made the safe, smart choices when he passed the ball, and he always looked confident. And I think those are attributes that you kind of overlook when you're looking at a talent, because you do look at arm, prototype size, speed and things like that when you're talking about it. But I think those qualities are really overlooked, and they're real great qualities to have in a franchise quarterback.
Oh yeah, definitely. And they're not necessarily like present too, because we do a lot of, watching in game on the field. Very rarely do we get an inside look at practice, but sometimes we get that, camp footage, at Alabama's practice facility. But yeah, those leadership qualities. I mean, both Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith said they would rather have Jones throwing them the ball than Tua. And I mean, obviously they were most productive with him at the helm as well. And, with obviously Devontae Smith winning the Heisman with Mac Jones throwing him the rock. But like the rumblings around scouts, I saw like a anonymous NFC scout. He described him as like a winner and a very personal player. And I think someone that relates well to the rest of his offense is going to have an easier time adjusting to the NFL and making connections, not only with his fellow rookies at minicamp, but the veterans as well. And Patriots, they have a lot of veterans on their roster. So I think overall, I think Mac Jones is a good fit in New England.
How do you feel that he's going to integrate into the NFL? And also, he's got one of the greatest coaches that's been around, going to be sort of mentoring him. Do you feel that, is that only a positive for him?
I think it's definitely positive. I mean, obviously, expectations come with a first-round pick, especially at the quarterback position, because, I mean, you saw what happened with Tua last year. If people don't come out and perform immediately, especially with, a shortened preseason and training camp, then people get frustrated. They want these guys to come out of college and be able to produce immediately, and sometimes that isn't always the case. And with Mac Jones, I don't think that there should be an expectation for him to immediately fulfill the shoes of Tom Brady either, or supplant Cam Newton. So across the board on both offense and defense, I think Belichick overall, I mean, he said this in a USA Today article that he wants players that are coachable. He wants players that are intelligent and players that he can depend on. And I think a lot of that stems from, the Patriots slogan, do your job. And it's not necessarily like, do your job as in your position, like you cover your man, but it's also, don't try and be someone that you're not, right? If you're a slower corner facing, a faster receiver, then maybe you want double coverage on top of your assignment, just as an extra safety blanket. It's knowing your abilities and knowing, your strengths and weaknesses, and then playing mostly to your strengths, and then, relying on the scheme and the system and your coaches to help you sort of hide your weaknesses or build them back up.
Now, he's definitely been a guy that everybody's been talking about, whether it be positive or negative. I know a lot of people have had a lot of doubts in him. But what would you say his weaknesses were at college, and what do you think his challenges are going into the NFL?
I think definitely athleticism. You look at him, he's not the most muscular guy, right? He's sort of roundish, right? As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, he sort of waddled up to the stage. He didn't, have this like, big, brawn, muscular look to him. So you definitely worry about that aspect, and you worry about his abilities to extend plays outside the pocket. I think the most blatantly obvious example is Jared Goff and his struggles in Los Angeles and trying to fit into Sean McVay's system, where I think you need to have, some legs in today's league to buy yourself a second or even like half a second against the Chase Youngs, the TJ Watts, the Myles Garretts that college football is only going to keep churning out, right? I mean, these guys are freaks of nature. They're aliens. They're different. They're a new generation of pass rushers that we haven't necessarily seen that are both intelligent, they have moves, and they're freakishly strong. So you definitely worry about his aspect or his strengths outside of the pocket. And I also worry that he was a structured passer at times. A lot of people, they love to look at the receivers that Jones was throwing to, right? He had Jalen Waddle, he had Devontae Smith, and they like to say, oh, that was the reason for his success there. But it wasn't necessarily like his passing attack as well. It was the top tier coaching, the top tier weapons, the top tier offensive line, and a top tier defense that prevented opponents from running away with the game and also kept the Crimson Tide in control for most of the outing. So in New England, Jones, he gets a lot of that back, right? He gets Belichick as coach. New England brought in a lot of weapons this offseason as well. They've always had a solid defense. So we're going to have to see how New England, their offense looks with that 2 tight end setup and all these new young receivers that they brought in.
I feel a bit like we're being a bit unfair. We're saying that he's waddled up. He kind of strutted a bit, didn't he? He kind of had that Vince McMahon thing going on a bit. It's like it wasn't a complete little duck coming up.
A power walk. A power walk. Like a waddle. Maybe.
That's power waddle, maybe.
Power waddle.
No, I mean he's obviously a top 15 draft pick in the 2021 NFL draft. He's allowed to have a little bit of swagger to him, right?
Or a bit of.
He's the one holding up his jersey with the commissioner on stage, not me. So who am I to criticize, right?
I do have to say, sorry, Adam, I do have to say that from what you were just saying then with the positives that he did have in Alabama, and you were right that he's landed in a situation that is very comparable to Alabama. And obviously Belichick has a long history with Alabama of getting their players, and they have a similar sort of structure. Do you think that let's say Mac Jones is a success in New England, and we can imagine he probably will be because of the structure of what New England is with Bill Belichick and the coaching staff. Would you think that if he didn't go to New England, that maybe his career may be taking a different course, and that it's benefited him hugely going from structured system of Alabama to a structured system like New England?
Oh, 100%. I feel if he went somewhere like Chicago or any place that's rebuilding, really, like he'd have a tougher time. I definitely see, Zach Wilson was an interesting pick at number 2 overall to the Jets, but I think Wilson would have been, miles better of a pick than Mac Jones in that selection, just because I feel like a lot of Mac Jones's strengths, Belichick is willing to look at and build them up. And also there's not as much pressure of a timetable. Obviously there's like the post Brady era in New England, but there isn't that lack of like a franchise, savior that needs to come in, immediately produce and have some sort of spark to a lifeless team. I wouldn't say the Patriots are a lifeless team by any means. I think they've sort of lost their identity with, the signal caller that commanded them for 2 decades, really, just left them. And so they're sort of left in this identity crisis where they're trying to figure out like, what's the new look Patriots going to be, right? And if they can find some of that identity in Mac Jones, then I think that's a really good thing. And I think he would have fit in New England better than, any of the other rookie quarterbacks.
Were you surprised that he did fall down to 15? Because there was the speculation about San Francisco maybe going for him. There was also a lot of speculation about the Patriots moving up. I know you said that you didn't feel it would happen, but I mean, were you surprised at all that he did actually, like, you didn't have to do anything, he just literally fell in your lap?
Yeah, and not really. I mean, once again, like, you never know what's going on in Belichick's head. But I didn't really see the Patriots taking matters into their own hands and vaulting up into like the top 5 or top 10 for somebody. Like I said before, they trade down more than up. And obviously this is uncharted waters for them, but this is the highest that they've picked in some time now. They can't really afford to give up their future now that they're in this, post-Brady rebuild, and they still want to remain competitive in a pretty stacked AFC East. So they can't, sell their future for a first round pick. And also, first round quarterbacks, they're no sure thing. They're definitely flashy in the moment, but there's only really 2 or 3 that come out of each, draft of really, really solid signal callers that actually come out and produce and are playoff contenders. And so I think the Patriots did right by, not selling the farm for Mac Jones and just letting him, if that was an option at pick number 15, then that was going to be their pick. But I could have definitely seen them, selecting a cornerback and then maybe trying to deal Stephon Gilmore this offseason. That was a potential scenario that I discussed with, some of my friends before the draft actually happened.
We obviously saw Cam Newton, come into New England last year. He got the starting job over Jarrett Stidham. The question now does remain, who is going to be the starter week 1, Cam Newton or Mac Jones? Obviously, Mac Jones being the rookie, new into the NFL. Newton, after a COVID year, didn't have the right prep. I mean, when you look at, I've got some of the stats here, 2,657 passing yards, which was 24th in the NFL, 8 touchdowns, which was 34th in the NFL, 10 interceptions, joint 13th. That sounds all very negative, but then we look on the flip side, he rushed for 592 yards, which was 3rd out of all quarterbacks, and he got 12 touchdowns, which was 6th in the NFL as a league. So he outbeat all the other running backs, bar 5 running backs, to that touchdown mark. He brings a lot, Cam Newton, still. And with a proper offseason, he could probably bring more. But with the talents of Mac Jones, the rookie, you pick him at 15, there might be pressure there to start him. Who do you think's got that starting role week 1?
Yeah, Newton, he was also injured in his first year in a new system as well after being in Carolina for so long. So I think you sort of give him that benefit of the doubt and trust that, a veteran quarterback who brings a lot to the table in terms of, being a decent passer and an excellent rusher as well, as he proved last season and the stats that you mentioned just now. So I think you roll with Newton to start the season. And obviously if Newton is struggling, then maybe you try and throw Mac Jones in there and see what he can do. But unless Newton is struggling mightily, I don't think there's any reason to rush Mac Jones's development 100%. Because I mean, if he's killing it at practice and Newton is just underperforming drastically, then I could see a reason for the switch at the position. But I think it was generally considered, Mac Jones has question marks, right? And all rookie quarterbacks have question marks, and not all of them are going to come out and perform immediately and be those franchise saviors that you need them to be. And they need time and development. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he sat his entire rookie season, and that obviously made him one of the best quarterbacks in the league, sitting behind Alex Smith for a season. So I think that's the best route of development for Mac Jones, is to sit behind an established quarterback like Cam Newton, see what he can do, with a full offseason and preseason, and then have a true season as the starter, and then go from there.
It has been reported very heavily that he may not play a game this year, which from sounds of it, you seem pretty okay with. Is that the feeling once Patriot Nation is that we're not that fussed about seeing him play just yet? We know that he needs time and he needs to develop. And is that how Patriot Nation's feeling? Is that we don't even need to see him play?
I think so. I try not to affiliate myself with like the two like diehard of the Patriots fans, because they can be pretty diehard. I try and analyze it from an afar angle, I guess, because I'd say like I'm a Patriots fan because Wes Welker was my favorite player growing up. I loved what he could do in the slot, and just he was never the biggest, fastest, strongest, but somehow he managed to get the job done, and that's one of the reasons why Belichick loved him, and that's why I loved him. And so I would say that I'm not too diehard of a Patriots fan because I've no like affiliations to the city, I guess, and to that fan base. But I can definitely see them following my same mindset. I mean, Mac Jones, he wasn't the most exciting prospect in the NFL draft, that's for sure. And so I think some of that excitement factor also comes with, okay, he's not the flashiest prospect ever. He's not going to, blow your socks off immediately with these deep, cannon bomb throws. And so, maybe he needs to work on that a little bit. And I think a lot of people in this post Brady era, are going to have to exercise a little bit of patience.
I can't help but think that the playbook for Cam Newton is going to be polar opposites to what you're going to put in for Mac Jones, because they're such different styled quarterbacks. And if your main thought is that Cam Newton's going to be your week 1 starter. I would have thought it'd be built round him. So do you think that there is a place for Mac Jones' style of quarterback play, as we've seen San Francisco moving towards someone a bit more agile and mobile, and lots of other teams saying they want that Mahomes-like quarterback for the future? So do you think there's room for a Mac Jones style, and do you think like he could pick up the same playbook as Cam Newton?
Yeah, I could definitely. I don't really like you said. I don't really see them following the same playbook. I feel like Cam Newton's playbook draws more on improvisation, and obviously those designed runs they were doing a lot at the goal line, but also during the middle of the drive as well. I think Belichick realized that Newton's rushing ability is something he needs to maximize and take advantage of, and catch defenses unaware of. And so I thought that was really interesting to see a lot of that. A lot of that creativity from Belichick after running with the same quarterback for so long. I feel like you develop these tendencies and this mindset of how football is supposed to look like at the quarterback position. And I think Mac Jones definitely fits that structure more than Cam Newton does. And so I definitely think there's going to have to be a transition period where the offense needs to get on the same page, the same playbook with just adjusting to the different styles of plays, like you said. They're polar opposites at quarterbacks, and so I definitely think there's going to be some sort of transition period if New England were to switch from Cam Newton to Mac Jones in the middle of the season.
Moving away from Mac Jones as a pick, I mean, you had a crazy busy off-season. I mean, the free agency signings that have been made is insane. Do you worry that it's going to be difficult to integrate them all into the team for them to gel? Because I mean, it's like you've had Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Kendrick Bourne, Joe Turney. That's just to name a few. So, I mean, do you think it's going to be a problem for them?
No, I don't really see it being a problem. Belichick does have expectations for playmakers in his offense, right? And that 2 tight end setup is something we haven't really seen be dominant in the NFL in a long time, really since Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. So we're gonna have to see how that develops. But I think the receivers are definitely a bigger question mark. Obviously, N'Keal Harry hasn't really panned out as the first round talent that the Patriots wanted him to be. And he's had a few things to work on. He's worked on his route running and his deception, at the line. That's definitely an area that was a concern for him coming out of the Pac-12, where he could just outmuscle the Pac-12 defensive backs and everything. But also Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne, the new receivers coming in. I think those names are people you would expect to be competing for the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 spot. Maybe even the wide receiver 6 spot on a bunch of stacked rosters. And the Patriots, went out and paid them pretty handsomely in free agency. And so obviously when you're shelling out that much cash to bolster your offense, you expect production, right? No matter who's throwing the football. And I think that's the storyline of the Patriots season so far is, will those big moves in the offseason really translate to that production in season?
Defensive Player of the Year only a couple of years ago, Stephon Gilmore, we brought him up very briefly earlier. It's been rumoured since post-Super Bowl, really, that he's going to get traded away, that he's on the market. Do you think they've just not had the right offer yet? Do you think he's still in play to be traded before that trade deadline later in the year? I mean, it seems like very classic New England. It seems like we don't know anything, which is exactly what the Patriots want it all to be. But do you think it's going to be coming soon? Do you think they might stay with him in the end because they might not get the right offer? What do you think's going on with it?
I think the latter is probably more likely, that they'll stay with him. Belichick is notorious for dealing players, when they're right at their prime, because he anticipates that year of drop-off that usually happens when they go chase, deals in free agency, and then they really don't live up to expectations. And so Belichick's really crafty at picking up players at the right time.
I like what you did there. Crafty.
Yeah,
I like it,
crafty.
Robert. Crafty.
Yeah, for sure.
You didn't even know you did it. You didn't even know you made the link there.
I know. That's crazy. That's crazy. I love that you picked up on that, though. So yeah, he's very crafty. You don't really know what he's going to do, but there's this tendency you saw with Chandler Jones, Malcolm Butler, Brandon Cooks, right? Players that he got the most of and then shipped him off for a package, right, that yielded him some more players for the future. And so I don't know if we could see that with Gilmore as early as this offseason. I'm sure it'll happen at some point, but I think the Patriots are happy, where they didn't really get a full season of production out of Gilmore. He's still got, some of his best seasons ahead of him. And obviously that tandem with JC Jackson, where they have one of the most, best cornerback duos in the league, right? That can hold their own in man coverage against any receiver. And especially with the way the AFC East is shaping up now with Stephon Diggs, you got, Jalen Waddle and Devontae Parker in Miami. And then New York added some weapons as well. They got Corey Davis, and then is it Rashad Perriman as their wide receiver too?
Nah, Perriman's gone to the Lions, but they did draft Elijah Moore.
They drafted Elijah Moore. Denzel Mims as well, haven't they?
Denzel Mims, Jameson Crowder.
So yeah, the AFC East is getting more competitive, and I think having a shutdown cornerback is one of the luxuries of the NFL that is probably one of the most important outside of having your franchise quarterback.
Probably for the first time in a long time, no one's really talking about the Patriots' upcoming season. I mean, I don't think they had an awful year last year, but definitely they've strengthened their defense. It's a lot better than it was last year. They've had a lot of opt-outs and things like that last year. Like you said, they've got some viable tight ends this year as well. Do you think with no one talking about them and their schedule being a lot easier than it was last year as well, do you think that they're sneakily going to have a good season and be a viable playoff contender and do anything in the playoffs?
I think they can surprise some people. Yeah, definitely. And I think they'll be a lot more formidable, especially against Miami and Buffalo with the weapons that they've added. I think Cam Newton as well will be more improved, more comfortable, and also, healthier as well. And I'm anxious to see what he can do with these weapons 100%. And I think there was a lot of pressure and a lot of scrutiny on, what's this Patriots team going to look like after Brady? And I think Cam Newton is the perfect guy to say, hey, that doesn't really matter, because Cam has always done what Cam does. And, you see it with his personality, the way he dresses. He doesn't really seem to care about all the outside noise and, and what people think of him. And I think that's the type of person that the Patriots need at the helm of their franchise moving forward, is someone that's willing to look in the now and in the future instead of at the past.
The running back room is quite a sort of that you've got quite a few players there, but not anyone really taking hold of that position. And I mean, for fantasy, it's been a nightmare for years when it comes.
100%.
And also with Cam Newton there, taking a lot of the touchdowns because of the way that he does rush. I mean, who do you think will be the main guy this year?
I've seen a lot of talk about Damian Harris to separate from the backfield. And, I didn't really see it a lot with Sony Michel as well. I feel like Sony Michel just can't see past his own blocker sometimes. And so Harris definitely excites me as a runner that can, piece together these long gains and has better vision, I'd say. I think James White is still going to be there and catch the footballs as the primary receiving back. But as a slasher runner, I think Damian Harris can definitely fill that role for them.
Cole, it's been really great having you on, my friend. We very interesting chat about Mac Jones, and we really appreciate you coming on. I would say you probably have the best quiff in football. That hair is so well slicked. I mean, I have got long hair and it was longer. I would say if me and you did a podcast or a TV show, we'd have the best hair in football. Adam and Andrew are so jealous of both of us right now. We're good looking. We have great hair. I mean, we could be quite a duo, my man.
Totally, man. I mean, that's our Super Bowl right there, right? Just exactly. give me huh?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, exactly. 100%. I mean, I feel like, just get me a hairdresser from Hollywood, and my favorite hair gel, American Crew hair paste. Yeah. 100%.
Oh yeah. There we go. He's putting in the names to get the sponsorships there.
Yeah,
put that in there.
Yeah, no ad, right?
No free shout outs. You have to give us product to get shout outs. Yeah, man, we really appreciate you coming on. Where can we find all your analysis, all your videos and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok at Ham Analysis, YouTube as well. I post film breakdowns on there, trying to get a lot more out this summer now that I have the free time. But yeah, so if you're interested in learning, some of the more, finer details of football and, watch someone who's watched all the games and from the all 22 coaches film point of view, then, head over to that to check it out. But overall, just, contact me on socials and I'm happy to talk about football anytime, anywhere.
Awesome, man. What players have you had under the microscope? I thought I saw Hollywood Brown that you did some analysis
Hollywood
on.
Brown. That's my guy. I feel like he's being held back by the Ravens offense, and sort of tried to illustrate that with the video that I put out. So we're going to see how Baltimore changes with that offense. But I think my next project is going to be looking at Odell Beckham's 7 games last season. Was he looking like his 2016, 2017 prime form, and seeing if that connection with Baker Mayfield was improved from his first season in Cleveland.
You're twinging at Andrew's New York Giants heartstrings there. He looks happy but upset. He doesn't know how to feel, do you, about OBJ?
Well, at least if the Patriots play the Giants in the Super Bowl, we'll win. So,
Hey, if it's any consolation, Kadarius Toney was one of my favorite prospects in this year's draft. So I think he's sort of that spark of electricity that New York sort of needs in their offense.
Well, you like him more than Andrew, so that's something.
Right. We've also, thank you again, Cole, for coming on. We've also, I'm going to sling Adam into the middle screen here because we have a competition that we are bringing your way. Adam, if you'd like to take it away for me, please.
We do. So we have got a mini helmet here that is available. New England Patriots mini helmet that has been signed. I think you can just about see it. We'll go that way. By N'Keal Harry, and it's got a Beckett authentication on the back there, so it's the real deal. Basically, what we want you to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, and on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's going to be on all 3. If you can make sure that you just sort of retweet it or share it, and then what we'll do is we'll probably run it for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, Fred? Something like that? Yeah,
something like that. We're ironing out the finer details of it, but we'll definitely be pushing it out and spreading it out.
But yeah, we'll probably do it for 3 or 4 weeks, and there'll be a little message that will go up on all our socials. That if you make sure that you retweet or share that message with a picture of the helmet there, and then you'll get put in, and we will let the winner know who gets the N'Keal Harry helmet.
Smashing. Thank you very much. What a great Patriots gift. That could be a good competition as well. Thank you for joining us live. This will be on all our socials for a long time. So make sure you watch it. Make sure you tag any NFL UK fans, Patriots fans, football fans in general. Thank you for all your continued support on our live channels, on our pre-recorded ones as well that are on YouTube. We really appreciate all your support. It suddenly got very dark very quickly. I've noticed I'm in like pitch black very quickly. But thank you very much, and we'll see you all again very soon. Good night.